Y'all, I did it! I did it! I figured out who haunts Keys Hall! Maybe I should start from the beginning. Let's talk about the ghost of WTOC. During the pandemic, I started giving virtual ghost tours on my Instagram and TikTok. One of the stops on my tour was this building. It may not look remarkable, but this old home used to house the Savannah CBS affiliate, WTOC.
This is the award-winning WTOC TV Channel 11 Savannah, the Southeast News Leader.
It's been renamed Keys Hall and now houses the communications department for the Savannah College of Art and Design. I always say that any good theater is haunted, and the same can be said for television stations. In one of my previous videos, I talked about my experience with the ghost at WSAV. Given how old the WTOC building is, you know it's haunted. In fact, during the station's 65th anniversary, the ghost was mentioned in one of the special reports.
The way the story was told to me, the place was haunted, and there were actually two people that quit. One, a receptionist, after the first day because she saw the colonel.
So who was the colonel? I've heard people say that he was a fireman or a Civil War soldier. I had tried to track down who this ghost could be, but everything seemed to be a dead end, so I put it on the back burner. It wasn't until I was looking into something completely different that I finally got a name: Lawton. If you visited Bonaventure Cemetery, you may remember the last name from this plot. It's one of the most photographed plots in the cemetery for both the family marker and the statue of Corrine Lawton. Plenty of stories are told about Corrine. The most famous is that she fell in love with a poor man who her family didn't approve of. The two had planned to elope, but her brothers heard about it and locked her away in the family home. In her grief, Corrine threw herself in the river. Because Corrine committed suicide, the family had her buried in the corner of the plot instead of next to everyone else. While that is a beautiful and tragic story, there isn't much truth to it. Now, Corrine was engaged to be married, though I haven't been able to track down who that was. But before her wedding, she became sick, possibly with pneumonia. She died, and her family commissioned this beautiful statue from an Italian artist to mark her grave. The inscription reads, "Allured to brighter worlds and led the way." As I was trying to figure out what home Corrine died in, I finally came across an address linked to the family. 516 Abercorn. Yes, the home that was eventually turned into WTOC. The home was built by Algernon Hartridge in 1870. That's just a fantastically old-fashioned name. During my research, I found that he built quite a few homes around Savannah, so I don't think he ever lived in the home on Abercorn. I'm not sure exactly when it was sold to the Lawton family, but I was able to track down that Corrine's brother, Alexander Lawton Jr., lived there, as did his son, Alexander III. Corrine's father had been a general during the Civil War, but Alexander Jr. was a colonel in the Georgia National Guard and served during the Spanish-American War. His son, Alexander III, also served during World War I. It was actually Alexander III who finally led me to the home on Abercorn Street. He was listed as a member of the Georgia Historical Society in 1934. His address, 516 Abercorn. With a little searching on findagrave.com, I was able to find out that Alexander Jr., the colonel, died in the home in 1936 from bronchial pneumonia. Just 3 years later, WTOC bought the home and turned it into a radio station. In 1954, it also became a television station. Can we just take a moment to appreciate this font? Colonel Alexander Lawton reportedly caused the occasional problem and scared employees until WTOC relocated in 1995.
Now, the reason the colonel was hanging around, we were told, is because he really thought he was a general, and everybody kept referring to him as a colonel, and he was really ticked off about it. But there are people that swear that that old building was haunted.
So what about now? I haven't found anyone who's had an encounter with the colonel since the Savannah College of Art and Design took over. Maybe the colonel simply didn't like all the lights and cameras and constant activity of a newsroom. Maybe he prefers the quieter 9-to-5 crowd that he shares space with now. As for what the colonel did to unfortunate WTOC employees, I am still trying to track down someone who has had an actual encounter. Most of the stories I've heard are secondhand. If I find someone, look forward to a part 2.